The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council stretched wider than most planets. Tall arches held up glowing ceilings, and the air buzzed with the soft hum of alien translators. Thousands of species sat in silence. No one blinked. No one spoke. They were all watching one figure standing in the center, a human. Ambassador Lyra Kane stood alone on the glowing platform. She wore a black suit, simple and silent. Her face was calm, her hands steady, but her eyes burned with something hidden, something old, something sharp. At the head of the council, a creature of pure light floated forward. It was called Vel-Zar, Speaker of the Stars. Its voice echoed in the minds of all beings present. You, the people of Earth, stand accused of violating the deepest law of the galaxy. You are charged with unleashing dark energy into the outer colonies. Entire systems have gone silent. The balance of space has been broken. Lyra did not speak. She only stared. Another alien, shaped like a great stone beast, slammed its fist against the floor. We have evidence. It roared. Human ships were last seen near the Nova Gate, and now that gate is gone. There is no clear proof, Lyra finally said, her voice steady. Whispers spread like fire. A soft hiss, a buzzing storm. No clear proof, Vel-Zar repeated. Yet your species has always walked the line between genius and danger. Your minds reach too far. Your machines go too deep. You play with forces others fear. We seek knowledge, Lyra replied. We do not fear the dark. And that, Vel-Zar said slowly, is why we fear you. The decision came not with a trial, but a vote. One by one, glowing symbols appeared in the air. Green for mercy, red for exile. Red, red, red. More than 90%. Earth was to be cut off. Not destroyed. Not attacked. Worse, exiled. Let your world fall into silence, Vel-Zar declared. No council technology, no trade, no passage through our gates. Let Earth fade into the void. Lyra didn't cry. She didn't plead. She simply bowed, turned, and walked out of the hall. The sound of her footsteps echoed long after she was gone. Months passed. The council disconnected all human channels. Earth's beacons dimmed. No ship came. No message returned. The once bright blue planet slowly disappeared from galactic maps, like it had never existed. Pirates whispered stories of abandoned colonies. Traders claimed to see Earth burning from orbit, its cities dark, its skies broken. Others laughed. They're finished, some said. Good riddance, said others. But the smart ones stayed quiet. They remembered the way Lyra had stared back at the council. Calm, silent, unafraid. They remembered what humans had done in the past. They remembered that Earth had once fought off 3 empires at once, and survived. And now, they were quiet. Too quiet. Years rolled by. A generation passed. Most believed humans were extinct. But in the shadows, in forgotten systems beyond mapped space, strange things began to happen. Black ships were seen, silent and fast. Old human satellites reactivated, but they weren't broadcasting. They were watching. A small alien science team near the edge of exile vanished. Their last message was a blurry image, a massive object rising from a dark planet. Not a moon, not a station, a ship, a human one. But it looked different, stronger, sharper, like it had been rebuilt by fire. In the council, no one spoke about it. But the whispers grew. They're not extinct. They're just waiting. And somewhere, in the cold silence of exile, a voice recorded a message. It was never sent, but it was ready. They pushed us into the dark. We learned to breathe in it. And when the stars forget us, we will return, not with words, but with fire. The exile years were not quiet for Earth. While the galaxy looked away, assuming humanity was broken and forgotten, Earth went silent. But not because it was dead. It was because it was preparing. Beneath the old continents, in hidden bunkers deep under oceans and ice, humans worked without rest. They didn't send distress signals. They didn't ask for mercy. They built. They studied the very thing they were accused of: dark energy. No longer bound by council laws, humanity's greatest minds went deeper than ever before. They explored the unstable rift where the Nova Gate had once stood, carefully mapping its chaotic remains. And what they found changed everything. 2 years after the exile, somewhere beyond Pluto, aboard an old mining platform, Commander Aaron Vale watched a floating object with unblinking eyes. His crew stood behind him, weapons ready. It wasn't an asteroid. It wasn't council tech. It was human. At least it used to be. What remained of the vessel had been clearly torn apart by gravitational waves, probably near a dark energy field. Its hull was fused and twisted, but the ID tags were still there. Arc-class science vessel. Lucent Star. Missing for 8 months. They recovered the black box. What they found inside was terrifying. The last recording showed the ship drifting near a storm of fractured space. Then, a flash. Everything turned dark. But the strange part, the voices continued for another full hour. Crew members were clearly dead, but their voices kept speaking. Calm, measured, mechanical. One voice whispered on repeat, "We are not alone in the dark. Something watches." Aaron didn't sleep for 3 nights after that. Meanwhile, on Earth, underneath a scorched desert once called Nevada, Project Warden had come alive. Dr. Ren Kale, one of the last remaining astrophysicists from the pre-exile era, stood before a giant engine core. Blue lights pulsed across a circular ring that floated in midair, spinning without sound. They had cracked it. Real dark energy containment. Not borrowed from alien tech. Entirely human-made. We were accused of using it. Kale said to her assistant, so we decided to master it. And they did. The new ships weren't built in orbit. They were born underground, shielded, armored, cloaked from sensors, and powered by energy that could bend time itself. They were named after myths: Cerberus, Leviathan, Icarus, and Firebrand. But there was one more, larger than all the rest, still under construction. Its name was whispered like a warning: the Revenant. Elsewhere in the galaxy, on the outer colony world of Cerule 9, a mining operation went dark. No distress call, no trace of a fight, just gone. The council sent a scout team. Only one returned. Lieutenant Vesh, a reptilian species known for fearlessness, screamed during debriefing. It wasn't pirates, he gasped. It wasn't machines. It was shadows. He described black ships that didn't make sound, weapons that didn't glow, and voices on the radio that repeated alien names, the names of long-dead council members. Then he fainted. Later, the medical report said his brain had aged 5 years in 1 day. The council officially closed the report. Unofficially, they started watching Earth again. But their long-range scanners found nothing. Just silence. Back on Earth, a global message. Humanity had not spoken to the stars since their exile. But now, a signal was sent, encrypted, a single word repeated across every forgotten relay station. Observe. No one in the council could decrypt it, but the message kept coming. Even the old beacons the council had disabled began blinking again, without power sources. It was like Earth had infected the dark. Inside the Revenant, in a dark chamber the size of a city, Admiral Myra Holt walked slowly through the ship's spine. She touched the smooth steel walls, humming softly. Her ship was ready. It was more than a battleship. It was a message carved in steel and silence. Let them wonder, she said to her crew. Let them fear what they buried. Thousands of crew members stood at attention. None wore traditional uniforms. They wore dark suits, almost identical to those used during Earth's early space age. Plain, efficient, silent. "We will not invade," Naira continued. "We will not beg. We will not ask for justice. We will show them what Exile built." As the Revenant's engines came online, the stars around it bent. The ship didn't jump into hyperspace. It folded the space in front of it and vanished. In the Galactic Council chambers, Velzar floated in uneasy silence. Something was wrong. Sensors along the edge of the galaxy were going dark, not destroyed, just unresponsive. Ships passing near old human trade routes reported strange gravitational pulls and power failures. Then, the impossible happened. A message arrived, sent through the old Nova Gate network. But that gate was destroyed. The message was audio only. It was Lyra Kane's voice. "You exiled us into darkness. We learned to see without your light. Now we return, not with anger, but with memory and fire." The recording ended, but it left behind something worse than threats. It left behind silence. The kind of silence that comes before a storm. Scene ends with suspense. The final image is a council trade convoy moving through a safe zone. Suddenly, every light flickers. The stars vanish, and from the shadows, a shape emerges. The Revenant. No warning, no words, just the sound of metal breathing. The Revenant's presence was not just a threat. It was a signal, one that echoed through every corner of the galaxy, waking old fears. The Galactic Council's response was swift, but it was already too late. 2 days after the message, Admiral Naira Holt's eyes glowed with the light of distant stars. She stood on the bridge of the Revenant, watching as the galaxy's wide-spanning, once unshakable authority crumbled before her eyes. The Council had begun calling emergency meetings. Their military forces began moving toward the sector. But all they had was old technology, outdated tactics, and fear. They were too slow. Humanity's exile had been a long shadow over the galaxy's history. But now, the exile was over. Earth had returned, changed, hardened, and more powerful than anyone could have imagined. On the edge of the Galactic Council's space, a small fleet of military ships, mostly old battleships, moved toward the outer rim. The Council had given the orders. No questions, no delay. Lieutenant Vesh was on the lead ship, staring into the endless void where darkness had swallowed the stars. It was supposed to be a peaceful patrol, an exercise, but the tension in the air was thick. He knew, like everyone else, that they were about to face something they couldn't understand. "Status report," Vesh said, his voice a little tighter than usual. "The signal is getting stronger," said a technician from behind him. "We're getting more interference from the old gates, almost like something is blocking us." Vesh clenched his fists. "Something is blocking us, all right," he muttered under his breath. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. The unknown awaited them. Meanwhile, on Earth. Back on Earth, hidden beneath the oceans and ice caps, Dr. Rankale was watching, waiting, knowing that everything they had prepared for was now unfolding. She stood in the heart of the Warden Project's core facility, observing the data streaming in from a deep space probe. For years, the Warden system had tracked the movements of the Galactic Council, waiting for the right moment to act. It wasn't just about revenge, it was about survival. In secret, humanity had learned the secrets of dark energy, not only how to survive in the shadows, but how to harness its power. They had bent the laws of physics to their will, creating ships that could move faster than the Council's light-speed cruisers. The Revenant wasn't their only weapon. The Leviathan, a massive ship with the capacity to disrupt entire fleets, was ready. Hikaris was their flagship, capable of drawing on dark energy itself as a weapon of unimaginable destruction. And hidden deep under the surface was Cerberus, a stealth ship designed to infiltrate the Council's most protected areas. Humanity wasn't just returning. It was bringing an army of impossible machines to reclaim its place in the galaxy. Council headquarters. The emergency council session was in full swing. The massive council chambers were alive with the voices of representatives from hundreds of alien species. Fear was in the air, palpable and growing with every passing minute. Ambassador Valian, an alien diplomat from the Star Dominion, paced nervously in the Council's central chamber. He had dealt with humans before, though never on such a scale. He had always considered them a minor nuisance, primitive and rebellious. But now, their sudden return was shaking the foundations of everything he believed in. "We must act quickly," Valian said, his voice urgent, before the humans managed to gain more ground. The others nodded in agreement, but none of them truly knew how to deal with humanity. The Council had exiled them into the darkness, believing it was a permanent solution. Now they realized how little they understood about the species they had cast away. They underestimated humanity's resilience. Back on the Revenant, Naira Holt stood on the command deck, her eyes scanning the massive holographic map of the galaxy. Everything was falling into place. The Revenant was already moving through the black void, slipping past Council ships without detection. The ships had been designed not only for war, but for espionage, able to go unnoticed by any scanner or sensor. Even the ships that had come to confront them couldn't sense the Revenant's approach. "Prepare for the first strike," Naira ordered, her voice cool and commanding. "We will show them that humanity isn't broken. We're stronger than ever." "Admiral, the first wave is in position," said Commander Reichel, her second in command. "Do it," Naira said simply. Council fleet, outer rim. Vesh's fleet reached the edge of Council space. A massive black hole loomed ahead, one of the galaxy's most dangerous areas. It was supposed to be empty, void of anything living. But they were there now, staring into the abyss. "Nothing yet," the crew murmured, their voices low. Then suddenly, the sensors went dark. "Reverting to manual," shouted Vesh. But it was too late. The first of the Revenant's ships emerged from the shadows. Cerberus. It moved silently, effortlessly, bypassing every defense without a single shot fired. The Council fleet, massive as it was powerless in the face of the human ship's superior stealth technology. "Target acquired," came the voice from one of the officers. Without warning, a single energy pulse shot from Cerberus, hitting the largest ship in the fleet. It detonated in an explosion so fierce that it sent shockwaves across the sector. The battle had begun. The rest of the fleet. Admiral Naira watched as the chaos erupted across the galaxy. The first wave had successfully broken the Council's defense. Now it was time for the Revenant to show its true power. With a flick of her wrist, Naira ordered the next phase. The Icarus appeared from the darkness, its engines glowing with dark energy. It was a ship like no other, designed to draw power from the void itself and unleash it in concentrated beams of energy. As the Revenant moved deeper into Council space, the first major city on an outer world exploded in a massive shockwave. "Icarus, full power," Naira ordered. A massive energy beam shot forward, cutting through the city's protective shields like a knife through paper. The entire planet shook as the energy beam hit, sending the once protected colony into a state of chaos. The galaxy would know now. Humanity had returned, and they were not the same. The fire had begun. It started with small, unnoticed ripples, subtle, like the first tremor before a storm. The galaxy's great civilizations had underestimated the wrath they had provoked when they cast humanity into exile. But now, as the flames spread, there was no stopping them. The Revenant moved through the void like a predator, striking fast and unseen. Council headquarters, Galactic capital. A week had passed since the first attack. The galaxy was on edge. The voices of the Council members grew frantic as they realized how far-reaching the human strike had been. The once invincible Galactic Council, one of the most powerful authorities in the universe, was shaken to its core. The humans, they're everywhere. Ambassador Valian's voice shook as he addressed the gathering of representatives from the galaxy's leading species. The holographic image before them flickered, showing the destruction of cities across the Council's outer rim. Once bustling trade hubs were now burning ruins, reduced to ash in a matter of minutes. Humanity's technology. We underestimated it. They've built weapons we cannot comprehend. Valiant continued, struggling to maintain his composure. The delegates fell silent. The fear was palpable. Some alien leaders, once proud and powerful, now glanced nervously at each other. One delegate, a towering insectoid named Thar, spoke up, his voice low and ominous. They are no longer the fragile creatures we banished. They are far beyond what we can contend with. Valiant nodded grimly. We need to assemble every fleet we have left. We must stop them before they burn everything. Deep within the Revenant's command center, Admiral Naira Holt watched the holographic battlefield in silence. Her eyes glinted with cold determination as the galaxy around her burned. Enemy fleets are gathering, said Commander Reichel, her second-in-command, watching the readouts on his screen. They know what's coming, and they're trying to prepare. Naira didn't react, her eyes fixed on the display of the shattered worlds. Her thoughts were elsewhere, calculating, always thinking 3 steps ahead. I've waited too long for this moment, she muttered under her breath. The Council had cast Earth into the void, thinking it would never return. They thought the silence would be their victory, but Earth's silence was only the calm before the storm. The human fleet was vast now, fueled by a desire for retribution, and equipped with technology far beyond the Council's understanding. Humanity was more than ready for this war. They had built a force that would challenge the very foundation of galactic power. And this time, it wasn't just for survival, it was for reclamation. They would take back everything that was once theirs. Their pride, their honor, their home. The Revenant moved silently through space, a ghost ship in the galaxy, but its weapon systems were active and primed. The time for subtlety was over. We strike tonight, Naira said, her voice as cold and sharp as a blade. Council Fleet, Outer Rim. The fleet of the Galactic Council moved in formation through the void. Thousands of ships, each one a symbol of their power, glided effortlessly through space. But beneath their calm exterior, there was tension. Each ship captain knew they were heading into a war they had never expected. The reports had been clear. Humanity was no longer the same fragile species they had exiled. Commander Vesh, now promoted to admiral, stood at the helm of the lead ship, his eyes scanning the tactical readouts. He had spent the last several years in the military, yet nothing could prepare him for the threat humanity now posed. The humans' fleet, it's here, one of the officers reported, pointing to the massive concentration of ships on the outer rim of the system. Vesh's heart sank. The Revenant. The name of the ship was enough to send a chill through the room. It was the flagship of humanity's return, a ship built for speed, stealth, and destruction. He clenched his fists, his voice low. We need to prepare for their attack. They will not give us time. The first strike. The first attack came without warning. Naira watched as the first wave of Revenant ships exited from the darkness. It was like watching an execution unfold in slow motion, the inevitability of it clear. The massive fleet of the Galactic Council, once invincible, was now helpless. Target the central fleet, Naira ordered. The guns on the Revenant hummed to life, discharging massive energy bolts that tore through the enemy lines. Ships were obliterated in an instant, their shields no match for the dark energy-powered weapons humanity had crafted in secret. The Council's ships fired back, but they were slow, disorganized, and outgunned. Vesh's fleet scrambled to respond, but the human ships were everywhere. They moved with the fluidity of predators, striking hard and fast, taking down the strongest ships first. Each time they destroyed a vessel, it was like a ripple through the Council's resolve. We're losing them, Vesh said, barely able to keep his voice steady. What are we facing? Before him, a massive human dreadnought, Icarus, loomed large. It fired once, a beam of dark energy so powerful that it tore apart an entire fleet with a single shot. The blast created a chain reaction, taking out more ships as debris rained down in all directions. Vesh watched in horror. The humans were unstoppable. On Earth, the heart of the resistance, Dr. Ren Kale stood before the main console, her fingers flying over the holographic interface. Behind her, the heart of the Warden Project pulsed with the steady hum of activity. The attack had already started. Humanity's first salvo had been delivered with precision. But now, they needed to push further into the heart of the Council's territory. They needed to send a message that would shake the galaxy to its core. The plan was clear. "Activate the Leviathan," Ren said, her voice calm but filled with determination. The Leviathan, a monstrous warship powered by dark energy, was their ultimate weapon. Its capabilities were unknown to the galaxy, and it was humanity's ace in the hole. Once it was deployed, there would be no turning back. "Prepare Cerberus for infiltration," Ren continued. "It's time to take the fight to their core." The Revenant, in the midst of battle. The battle was raging, and the Revenant's tactical advantage was overwhelming. Naira Holt stood on the command deck, her face illuminated by the stars and the chaos unfolding outside. The ships of the Galactic Council were scattered, trying to regroup, but it was clear that their forces were crumbling. The human fleet was too strong, too organized. It was as if they had been preparing for this war for centuries. "There's no going back," Naira said, her voice steady. "We finish this now." With a signal, the final wave of human ships surged forward, obliterating the remaining Council ships in their path. The galaxy would remember this day, the day humanity had returned with fire, with vengeance. But even as they celebrated their victory, Naira knew that the true war had just begun. The galaxy had exiled them, believing they were weak, helpless. Now they had come back stronger than ever, and they would not rest until every piece of the galaxy belonged to them. The dust had settled, but the echoes of battle still rang in the silent expanse of space. The once proud fleets of the Galactic Council lay scattered across the cold void, shattered and defeated. The Revenant, now a symbol of humanity's wrath and return, hovered above a broken world, the heart of the Council's strongest empire. Admiral Naira Holt stood on the bridge of the Revenant, her face illuminated by the flickering holographic displays of the battlefield. The Galactic Council's strongholds had fallen, their ships reduced to floating debris. There was no mistaking it now. The galaxy had witnessed humanity's fury, but Naira's mind wasn't on the devastation. It was on the future. The galaxy would never forget what had just occurred. The once dismissed species had turned the tables, and they had done it with fire. "We've won," Commander Reichel's voice broke the heavy silence. But there was no celebration, no joy in his tone. Only a grim acknowledgement of the harsh truth. Naira didn't reply at first. Instead, she turned her gaze to the distant stars. The battle was over, but the true challenge had just begun. "We've done more than just win," Naira said finally. "We've proven our place in this galaxy. The Council thought they could erase us, wipe us out, cast us into nothingness. But they were wrong. They have no idea what they've unleashed." She stepped forward, her voice growing cold and determined. "Now it's time to rebuild. Not just Earth, but the whole galaxy. We will make sure no one ever dares forget humanity again." Behind her, the crew of the Revenant watched in silence, each one aware of the weight of her words. The fire had been unleashed, but it wasn't a fire that would burn out. It was the spark of something much bigger. Humanity had been exiled, but now they returned, not just to survive, but to dominate. Meanwhile, on Earth. Back on Earth, Dr. Ren Kale stood before a grand display screen in the heart of the Warden Project's underground facility. The symbols of their victory, the remnants of the galactic battle, flashed across the screen, each one representing a world they had saved, a system they had reclaimed. The battle had been won, but the true power still lay in what they had built. Humanity's future wasn't just about taking revenge. It was about shaping the galaxy in their image. They had the strength, the technology, and now, most importantly, the will to take what they deserved. "The Leviathan has done its job," Ren said, her eyes fixed on the screen. But this is only the beginning. The Warden Project's engines hummed to life, the massive machines beneath the Earth's surface shifting and expanding as new weapon systems came online. Humanity's response to exile had never been about returning to what was. It was about building a new era, a new empire, built on the foundation of fire, fury, and the relentless drive to never again be underestimated. "Prepare for Phase 2, Ren ordered, her voice filled with purpose. "This galaxy belongs to us now. The stars look different now. In the final moments of this new chapter for humanity, the stars look different. No longer distant, cold, and unreachable, they now represented something else entirely. They were no longer a place where humanity had been forgotten. Now, they were a place where humanity would reign. And as the Revenant moved further into the dark reaches of space, humanity's message was clear. We were exiled, but we have returned, and we will never be forgotten again." The galaxy, once proud and unyielding, now trembled at the knowledge that Earth was back. But this time, they weren't alone. Humanity had allies forged in fire. The old powers were shattered, their control slipping away, as the flames of vengeance and ambition burned brightly in every corner of the galaxy. And the universe, in all its vastness, would never be the same again.